That said, in every different country, we believe that the pace, the shape, and the final outcome of such transformations may be different, and there might be very different time spans involved in each case. We believe that sustainable security can only be achieved through democratic legitimacy, and therefore Turkey, from the very beginning, from Tunisia to Egypt, from Libya to Syria to Bahrain, and maybe others in the future, encouraged the current leaderships to open up, reform, and address the legitimate interests, aspirations of their peoples. Indeed, the responses of our government to different cases stretching from Libya to Syria to Egypt have had different shapes and forms, but I think the essence of our policy is really that we encourage the leaderships to address the legitimate aspirations of their peoples. The second aspect is that we do not condone violence and disproportionate use of force against the people in question. That's sovereignty, territorial integrity, and the political unity of countries should be respected. And the fourth point that we articulate when it comes to these events in the Arab world, that transformation should be led and owned by the respective peoples with as little as possible external intervention. And that the transformation should not be hijacked by radicals, be they of religious, political, or other ideological strengths. And that the transformation should hopefully, which would be desirable, would be in a gradual way where the existing regimes would open up and agree to a process of dialogue, as we see in Egypt, a new constitution or a new political parties law that would lead to normal, transparent elections. Now, I know everyone in this room will be interested about what's going on in Syria, and let me touch upon the Syrian events as well. There's no doubt that for us, what happened in Syria has been very disappointing, because Syria was a country that we felt that our neighborhood policy had succeeded most visibly by engaging with Syria. We feel we've made a lot of progress. Trade between our countries has exponentially increased. The people-to-people contact has been remarkably effective, given the fact that only in 1998 we were almost going into a violent confrontation with Syria over the presence of the leader of the PKK being in Damascus. So the relationship had transformed radically, but unfortunately the events that continue to take place to this day have frustrated us, especially in view that our leadership, Prime Minister Erdogan, has urged President Assad to lead reform rather than find himself respond to reform, even when the events in Egypt started. As soon as the events in Egypt started, our leadership advised, counseled President Assad to lead reform rather than finding himself in a couple of months to respond to reform. Unfortunately, the response has been slow, somewhat inadequate, and I think to this day, like most of the international community, Turkey also finds the situation in Syria to be extremely complicated. On June 20th, as you know, President Assad made a speech and has outlined the main tenets of some of the advice that Turkey has given, basically to allow political parties to function, for free elections, free and transparent elections to take place, and a swift transformation to a constitutional democracy. Now, our policy at the moment is to observe and monitor the events in Syria, not based on speeches, but on concrete accomplishments and concrete facts on the ground. And we have announced that we will adjust our position and policy towards Syria depending on what will be concretely happening on the ground. Now, let me also touch upon the issue of refugees. There are approximately 10,000 refugees currently on our side of the border. Prime Minister Erdogan has announced that the Turkish border will not be closed, regardless of how many Syrian refugees choose to come over. We view those refugees as our brothers and sisters, as peoples of the same geography. The authorities in our southern provinces have been allocated extra funds to deal with the issue. Basic food, health, medicine and treatment is being provided. Obviously we're not looking forward to have more refugees, because whatever makes these people to cross the border and come over to the Turkish side, we want these events to stop. We also provide food to some Syrian villages in Syria who seem to have difficulty in obtaining basic needs because of the security situation in Syria. So we provide food to some of the northern villages in Syria as well. As you know, we have tried. We also have hosted the Syrian opposition in Turkey, and they have been. They have gathered and discussed their next moves, but Turkey maintains its contact both with Damascus and also with the opposition group. What matters for us is that the situation in Syria internally comes to a point that satisfies the Syrian people. And as long as we see security forces using excessive violence, killing their own people, I think the situation will continue to be critically monitored, but also criticized by Ankara. But we look forward and hope that President Assad and his regime understands that in this day and age, these sort of things are no longer sustainable, and that he needs to open up the country in a radical way so that Syria can regain its position in the Middle East. I don't know how I'm with time.
About 30 seconds.
Okay, good. Great. Thank you. I shouldn't have asked. Let me conclude that the Middle East is, as many people in this room know, is an extremely complicated place. Turkey, in one sense, is actually our reintegration has come after almost 90 years, and there might be some catching up to do, but I think Turkey will continue to confidently project and influence events as much as possible in a moderate and constructive manner. We feel and we've seen that many progressive elites in the Middle East look toward Turkey as an aspiration in bettering, in improving their social and political orders, and as long as that demand is there, Turkey and our party will continue to offer the guidance and expertise, if it's required, from them in this situation. Turkey will continue to raise the issue of the legitimate aspiration, the legitimate demands by Libyans, Syrians, Bahrainis, or Egyptians or others when these events come about. Thank you.
Great. Ambassador Liel, please.
Okay, I was asked to focus on Turkey and Israel, and I think since the morning there has been a consensus here that there is a crisis, a very meaningful crisis in the relations between the two countries. I would like to spend a few minutes on some background and then analyze the current bilateral situation and put it toward the end of my words in the regional context. We had very sharp ups and downs in our relations with Turkey in the past. We had a good start, a very good start. By the way, Turkey established diplomatic relations with Israel back in March 1949.